morning to everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Sun Life's Safe Space series. This is Mickey Sachiko, and I'll be your host for today's episode. But before we begin, allow me to give you a brief introduction about this talk show and what is it all about. Well, the Sun Life Safe Space series is a collaboration between Sun Life Philippines and the Philippine Mental Health Association as part of Sun Life's Partner in Health, Partner for Life campaign. It is comprised of series of episodes that talks about mental wellness and the various factors affecting it, as well as how we can cope with the myriad of pressures surrounding us. These are 3 episodes for the series, and each will focus on specific topics that will affect a person's mental well-being. The first episode focuses on the family's role to one's mental wellness, and the second episode focuses on the roles of peers as well as work-life balance in helping the person cope. While the third and last episode will focus on the person, him or herself, and how he or she can use coping mechanisms to ensure their mental wellness. Now, our first episode is titled Love 'em, Hate 'em, Stress 'em, Mental Wellness for the Family, which will talk about the family's role in a person's mental well-being. Before we begin, let me introduce our guests for today. Our first guest is the Guidance Director of FEU Manila and FEU Makati, who oversees the management of the different programs and services of the FEU Guidance and Counseling Office. And take note, she also earned all her degrees: PhD in Guidance and Counseling, MA in Clinical Psychology, BS Psychology, magna cum laude and cum laude at the University of Santo Tomas. She is currently a consultant of Child Fam Possibility Psychological Solutions, REX Publications, Project Inclusion, and Unilove Foundation. Apart from her consultancy stints, she is also a registered guidance counselor, registered teacher, registered psychologist, registered psychometrician, certified counseling psychologist, certified assessment psychologist, and certified clinical and counseling supervisor by the Australian Counseling Association. She is also the founder of the Peer Organization of the Philippines and co-founder of the Bayanihan for Wellbeing. Ladies and gentlemen, a virtual round of applause to Dr. Sheila Marie Sheikh Jihoksan. Hi, Doc. Thank you so much for being here. So excited. Now, before we begin, allow me to introduce our next awesome guest for today as well. He's a social anthropologist and life coach who has a holistic perspective with his approaches towards human behavior. He is currently a lecturer at the Ateneo de Manila University and a freelance qualitative researcher. And as a life coach, he helps people journey through life transitions and seek to build their life purposes. He also helps people overcome limiting beliefs while enabling them to gain emotional awareness, practice self-compassion, create their life's visions, and strategize their life goals. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Dr. John Gaffey. Hi, Dr. John. How are you doing?
Hi.
Such an honor to have you here. All right, let's please have a seat. Welcome, welcome. It's so nice to have you both here today. I am super grateful to have you both today. I've been looking forward for this. As you know, our topic is Love 'em, Hate 'em, Stress 'em, Mental Wellness for the Family. Alam natin that we can all relate to that topic because, you know, all of us have experienced that, right? Love-hate relationship with our family. But in a nutshell, just for the benefit of our audience today, what does that really mean, right? Love, hate our families. How do we stress them and how do they stress us? So for our audience today, this will be an amazing topic. So before we kick it off, we've got a fun, short activity today. So first, we'll do a one-liner about love 'em, hate 'em. So I'll start off first. Love. I love my family because I can rely on them. Hate. I hate my family because they can be very nosy sometimes. How about you? Let's start off, ladies first. Doc, what's your one-liner for love 'em, hate 'em?
Yeah, of course, our family will always be there for us, no? But there are times that they tend to be nosy because, of course, they care about us, no? And of course, boundaries are important.
How about you, Doc? What's your one-liner for love them and then one-liner for hate them?
Well, are these people that are significant in my life. So without them, I'm in an emptiness, right? So I love them. But true enough, sometimes I feel as an individual that it's going a bit too far, asking too many questions. So I would like the questions to stop. So we are like that. That's the reality of our human life. Love them, hate them.
I mean, I can, like, when you said that, I was like, yeah, that is so true. Thank you both for those lighters. Here's another one. I was thinking, okay, I love my family because we always make sure to spend quality time with one another. That's my one-liner for that. I hate my family because sometimes, I need space. So let's start with one more round, please. Sir John, what's your one-liner for love and one-liner for hate for our family relationship?
Well, thinking about spending qualitative time with each other, what comes to my mind immediately is, for example, eating out together. So we are together, we spend quality time, but then parents especially would be telling their kids, please get off the phones, we are here, please spend quality time with us here. And the kids would say, oh, I also need my space even at the table. So there we go again. We need each other, but sometimes we need space.
There you see, it's kind of hard, right? How about you, Doc? One more round. What's your one line for love my family and one line for I hate my family? Real talk.
But of course, I would also like to say that among the Gen Zs of today, and even our Alpha generation, that love is definitely equated with time, but definitely there should also be a compromise and limitations.
Yeah, I love that. For our audience today, how about you? Let us know, what is your one line for love it and one line for I hate my family. Please drop it. Share your thoughts in the chat. Would love to see those. And in the Philippine culture, right? Sometimes this is like a common thing to say by some parents. It would say, kababae mong tao, wala kang alam sa gawaing bahay. Or kalalaki mong tao, hindi mo alam yan. So those kind of derogative statements that I'm sure sa mga audience natin, minsan siguro some of you naka-receive na ng ganong statement sa family niyo. So yung ganong dynamics in our culture and how it impacts our mental wellness is something that we are going to deep dive into for today through the help of these power thought leaders, I must say, about the family dynamics. So let's start off with you, Sir John. What is your thought about that? Those kind of mga statements that are being so normalized because we are so close with our families, and sometimes, just like what both of you said, there's been a lack of boundaries. So what's your thought about that, Sir John?
First of all, I think it's very powerful for everyone and for myself when I would say that I love my family because they believe in me. It's very empowering. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes they go beyond that boundary, whereby their expectations appear to me as if they want to control my entire life. Mm-hmm. Then as an individual, I don't feel at ease, I don't feel good anymore. Mm-hmm. So again, it's this interaction between the positive aspect of being with family and then the not so helpful one.
I think that's a spot on for that, Sir John. I was wondering, how about you, Dr. Huxon? What is your thought about that?
Yeah, anything of course. It's very important that we are the safe space of our children, rooted from our thoughts, that can definitely be our mindset and feelings and behavior. And of course, if you speak of negative, or negative things about our kids, it will definitely attack, their heart, and it can be imprinted in their mind. That's why it's very important that you'll be the safe space and the absolute truth of your children. And I do hope to all the parents out there, no, I do hope that you can teach our children, no, life skills like, yeah, no, washing dishes, no, and everything, so that they can also be trained with their life.
I think that's like a truth bomb there that you said, and I was wondering, is there like with the years that you've been doing a ton of research and psychological work and a whole lot of other health related works that you've done, was there one thing that you feel like, oh, okay, this is why we're super tight knit here in the Philippines, and this is, you know, causing that kind of like friction that we are so close to one another that sometimes there's no boundaries? Was there like some sort of like discovery for you, like a eureka moment that, you know, like, oh, this is why it's like that, you know, that kind of like a confirm that? Was there like some point of that?
Yeah, of
Confirming
course.
that was the reason why sometimes walang boundaries sa bahay.
Yeah, definitely marami po ang pwedeng maging effect nito, no? The environment that we have, it's so fast, no? The culture that we have, sometimes the toxic culture that we are having, and I think the turfing of Sir John is there, no? So, importante po talaga. And of course, importante po talaga yung magandang pag-iisip, no, sa bawat magulang. And of course, your perceptions, no? That can definitely be your belief, no, towards your children.
I like that you said that. How about you, Sir John? Do you have any insight, since you are a social anthropologist, any kind of cultural insights that you wanted to share to us about what you have observed here in the Philippines that you think is connected to why we are like so losing that kind of boundaries? Because again, once again, we are a tight-knit community. We're super close to one another, right? Anything that you have discovered over the years that you feel like, yeah, that's the reason why we are like Filipinos are like that.
Well, I think first of all is to realize that as a family, we are part of a bigger society. So there are also expectations around us. There are expectations of how parents should be parents. Now, when we go back to the family itself, the parents that we have are consciously or even unconsciously, that's even deeper because you don't think about it, but it's there. The parents we have are thinking about also what other parents would think of them because of the bigger society. So they have the tendency to think that they should be in control of their children because there's a wider cultural expectation. And maybe if they are not in control of their children, it might mean they are not good parents. Or outside there, something will be said about them. So since we don't have sufficient conversation to reflect on the way we relate to each other, we just do it, we just act out. So very often, we find that parents are really intruding and wanting to control everything about their kids simply because they think that's how parents should be and that's who parents are. But we find out that there are other alternatives in society, not only in the whole world, but also in the Philippines. And probably having a conversation, just like we are having right now, is the right way to begin with so that we can have more space, especially when children become adolescents and become young adults, allow them perhaps to contribute equally in conversations, in expectations about themselves within the family.
Sir John, I super love that you said that. It is true, right? Because a lot of Filipino parents, they care too much. Sobrang mahal na mahal nila yung mga anak nila to the point na minsan nawawala na nga yung boundaries. Which is, I think this is a great segue to our main topic for today. Ito na ba yung ano ba yung mga stress factors na nakakaapekto sa mental well-being. And of course, Sir John, you'll be, we want to hear your insight on this first. What do you think are the main factors that is going on currently, especially during the pandemic, sa family situation na talagang nakakaapekto sa mental well-being natin?
Well, of course, when we speak of stress factors, there are so many. We cannot identify everything. But speaking of the pandemic, since I teach college students, probably I can directly share a few examples that we have been experiencing with students. The positive thing about online learning is they can wake up later than usual. There's less traffic, so there's less physical stress. However, most of them are within a household whereby everyone is online or tries to be online. So there can be material stress factors, only one computer for everyone to use. But there's more than that. When students are in school, they are away from their parents. So even as a professor, we would talk about a lot of things that I will not reveal. But when they are at home, it's very difficult for myself as a teacher to engage them in freely expressing themselves because someone is always passing behind them. So in a certain way, the kind of release of the stress that they would experience normally elsewhere is missing, is lacking. So perhaps this is one context whereby we say that stress has increased among young people because studying at home is not that easy, not only because of the internet, but also because there's no safe space to express oneself.
I mean, yes, there's no safe space, and yes, the internet, that's a totally different ballgame. But I see what you're saying on that. Appreciate you sharing your insight. How about you, Dr. Hokson? Like, what is your take on this? Like, during the pandemic, we all know that more people have experienced mental health problems. Their well-being have been challenged. So what's your take on that, with the stress factors now and how it correlates to the mental well-being of Filipinos, especially in the family situation?
Yeah, actually, definitely, I concur with Sir John. No, on the part of the parents, I think it's really the boundaries of your work. No, that sometimes even Saturdays and Sundays you have to work. No, and lack of priority. Okay, with the family. No, I think for a young parent, of course, also the priorities that will you really be on the online learning of your children or not? Okay, for the children and for the adolescents, these are more on some of the cases that I'm handling. No, is more of the isolation and uncertainty, and of course, a lot of sad fishing. No, wherein you spread, the negative emotions in the social media, wherein you cannot control already your emotions. No, and that's also oversharing. No, and this is also part of the problems on the digital well-being, and of course the netizenship. No, that I do hope that all of the parents and all of the people here, adolescents and adults, no, that you have to remember that a right to post anything in our social media is definitely a right, no? But always remember that there's may limitation po diyan, no? May caveat po diyan, no? Na definitely po, hindi po absolute ang karapatan na yan, no? Lalo na kung ito ay nakakahawa, no? Pag ikaw ay nakakahawa sa social media, no? I do hope that you can go for really a good influence, becoming a good influence, no? I do hope that you can be enabling, no? Sana nag-enable ka. And sana piliin mo lagi na mag-inspire, no? Online and offline. Kasi lagi po nating tatandaan that your life is your message, no? Na ang buhay mo ay nanggagaling sa iyong pag-iisip, sa iyong puso at galaw, no? Na nagiging iyong desisyon at values, no? At ito po yung naipararating natin, no? Sa bawat isa. Na sana hindi tayo maging stressor, no? Pero sana in our own little way, tayo ay maging inspirasyon. Okay? So that's on the part of the student, no? Sa mga grandparents naman natin, no? Definitely yung pag-aalaga ng mga apo, no? Na sana po yung ating mga lolo't lola ay sana hindi naman lahat ibigay natin sa kanila yung pag-aalaga ng ating mga anak, no? Dahil definitely tapos na po sila, no? Sa ganong sitwasyon. And of course, one of the toxic cultures of the Filipinos, yung sana po pagtanda natin ay makaipon din po tayo, no? Kasi alam mo na hindi po obligasyon ng mga magulang, ay ng mga bata, ang tulungan ang kanilang mga magulang, no? Definitely have to invest, no? Mag-ipon, no? Kasi alam nyo, pag nag-asawa po ang inyong mga anak, syempre may sariling pamilya na rin sila. And most of my marital counselings are definitely yung problema sa mga in-laws, no? Okay? Problema sa mga roles and expectations. So, sa bawat edad, no? Meron po talagang mga iba't ibang stressor, no? And I think it's not only mental, no? It's definitely your productivity, well-being. We also have what we call now, definitely also our spiritual well-being, no? Our financial well-being. And of course, one of the advocacies that I'm also doing is the digital well-being, no? So, dapat po holistic ang ating development. And when you talk about mental well-being, it is definitely not just mental, but holistic. Okay?
I really like that you said that holistic and that 360-degree lens of seeing our well-being, especially now that, we are coming out. I would say not coming out, but crawling out of the pandemic, right? Trying to bounce back. Everyone is at different places on their health journey. Some are healing, some are just recently traumatized. Some have healed already and trying to be strong. So different places. And you talked about different types of well-being there. I really like that, since we are now seeing a lot of negativity on social media, I like that you mentioned about
we have a
digital
lot of
well-being.
cancellation culture as well. Even now in May that we have the election,
Yes.
no, the callers can also be somewhat, you will be canceled because of that. No?
I wanted to ask your insight on this. I've been really curious because since we're on the family mental health space right now, and you mentioned earlier about sometimes it's a challenge na there are no longer a safe space for the family members to speak out, right? And then you also mentioned that, with too much negativity going on, with what we are seeing on social media, I'll start off first with you. How do you think that impacts us? Let's say a family member becomes so stressed out, and then, of course, they are living with their family. Paano po yun nakaka-apekto kung halimbawa stress ng isang tao or their mental health have been challenged? Do you think that's being passed on, that mood around the house? Or do you think that's just depending on who the person is?
Yeah, definitely. Talaga pong sa katotohanan, and this really reality bites, talaga pong tayo ay naiirita, no? At tayo ay napapasigaw, no? And yung pong mga anghang ng ating pagsasalita, no? Ay definitely tumutusok sa puso ng bawat anak natin, no? Or loved ones natin, no? At yan po ay talagang tumatatak, no, sa isip ng mga bata. Kaya po, usually ang aming mga ginagawa is really more on really targeting the irrational thoughts of the Filipinos, no? Yun, diba, pag sinabihan ka, ang hina ng ulo mo, no? And definitely, ganun po talaga ang mangyayari sa ating mga anak, no? Kung maanghang ang salita natin. Kaya usually in some of the family counselings that we are also doing, no? It is really very important, no? To also really know how to handle your emotions very well, no? And that is really more on social-emotional skills, no? At importante po, usually ang sinasabi ko rin, the basic, no, things that I'm really saying to the parents is that kung wala po tayong sasabihing maganda, no, wag na lang po tayong magsalita, no? At kung mainit po ang ating ulo, one of the things that we really need to do is to escape, no, on the situation, no, and even avoid ang ating mga social media. Kasi pag vent ka ng vent sa social media, yan po yung tinatawag na emotional contagion, no? May pandemya na, no? Marami nang naghihirap, no? And at the same time, emotionally, no, negative, no, yung mga emotions na kumakalat, contagious. And ikaw, no, and sir, kung makabasa ka ng ganyan, talagang mawawala ang maganda mong umaga, di ba? Pag nakakita ka ng mga negative emotions. And I do hope that we'll be responsible. I do hope that we definitely go for really the right digital engagement. And of course, hindi lang po yung pagkakalat ng mga negative feelings, but also yung mga negative, no, yung mga fake news, no? Kasi po pag nagdagdag pa kayo ng fake news, naku, isang stressor na naman yan, no? Pwedeng mataranta, pwedeng ma-anxious yung mga tao.
I like that you said that. there's this thing that a research I saw that they're calling the mental health problem now as a second pandemic, that now that we're in a post-COVID world. So now with you saying that, Dr. Hokson, and knowing that now that we've established that everyone, most of us, either have our mental health challenge or is currently still in that phase, what is your thought, Sir John, about, how can we cope with that now that we're bombarded with a lot of negativity, and family here in the Philippines, we're super close to one another, and sometimes our mood swings, right, because of all the negativity that we are in. You've shared your insight on how we can manage our emotions and mental health. Do you have any additional thoughts on that, Sir John?
Well, the additional thought, even if the pandemic does not allow us to practice it, is that we forget, or maybe we are not conscious, that as much as social media has become a part of who we are also natural beings. We are social beings, we are connected together socially, culturally, but we are natural beings because we live in a world where nature is important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the pandemic is stopping us from doing, what we would normally do, go for a walk outside. Because a lot of families don't have sufficient space within their homes to have a walk, to breathe a different air. And when you are going out of your home, maybe the stresses from inside, when you are outside, your mind gets clearer because you are not totally engaged with it. You need a break from it, a physical break from it. So we are not having that. Hopefully we will have it a bit more. But it's important for us to be aware of that we are not purely digital beings. Even if we are going down there, we are also natural beings. Mm-hmm. So let us not forget about that. Hopefully, as the pandemic slows down, we will be able to go out. Even if it's not nature as the trees, just physically being outside makes a big difference.
So in other words, kahit na sa syudad po kayo, walang excuse. Still, you can go out even though you're looking for nature and there are not much around Metro Manila. Still go out, as you have said, Sir John. It will still help out. So if you feel like, basically, if they're on the verge of like screaming on the top of their lungs, eto na, naiinis na tayo sa mga kasama natin sa bahay. Take a pause, just like what like Dr. Hokson said, and maybe go out too and reflect, right? I would say. Now, let's proceed with the questions. There's this one really interesting question here, and it goes like this. I hate being compared to my siblings. Whenever my parents do this, it really triggers me into a fit. How do I make my parents stop doing this, because I am getting tired of this kind of routine? All right, that's the first question. Dr. Hokson, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, actually, it's definitely a hard question, no? But I do hope that to all the family, sana po mas tingnan po natin yung lakas ng bawat kabataan, no? And siguro kung minsan ako-compare ka man, no? There are really instances siguro na baka, I think, pwedeng yung maturity mo mas malawak, no? Kesa sa iyong kapatid. And at the same time, there are really instances in the Growth Mindset Program na karamihan ng mga magulang, no? Okay? Definitely, usually, no? Mas nauuna nila yung mga challenging students nila or children nila, no? Kaya minsan may mga pangunawa, no? Na mas marami, no? Doon sa ating mga challenging children, no? But definitely, importante po natin gawin is kung nakikita natin may mga pagkakamali ang ating mga magulang, syempre hindi naman perfecto yan, no? Definitely, I do hope that you can communicate, no? And at the same time, I do hope na sana when you will have your own family as well, no? Sana lagi mong bitbitin yung mga tama, no? At hindi ka malian.
I love that. How about you, Sir John? What's your take on that question? I know it might be hard to answer it like in a very short form, but let's try it. What's your take on that?
Well, my take is, again, I bring in cultural expectations. Perhaps from certain parents, they look at their children as two clear-cut groups within the family: parents, children. And then perhaps sometimes they expect all their children to be the same. So it leads to all kinds of comparison. But secondly, as Doc has said, there's this expectation that if you are older, then you are supposed
To have the
to have the
maturity.
maturity to understand everything, but forgetting that even if you are older, you are still the child of your parents,
Yeah.
and you would want to be taken equally and not compared or excuse the younger one because the younger one is just younger. So maybe these are the difficult situations of families. And I also support the idea that conversations need to happen among everyone in the family, so that everyone can have a voice in what's going on in the family.
Let your voice be heard. Safe space, right? I mean, shout out sa mga panganays there. Take it from these two. But maybe you can remind your parents about that, because sometimes I know a lot can suffer from that, right? Kumpara sila.
Yeah,
So,
kaya meron tayong tinatawag na parang middle child syndrome, 'di ba? Lalo na, for example, if you are in the family na tatlo yung anak, no? So, for me, for example, I'm a middle child, no? So, yung panganay, syempre, kompleto yung immunization niyan, di ba? Marami pang naipon, no? So, pangalawang anak, di ba? Somewhat parang tira-tira na lang yung immunization. And then, pagdating ng pangatlo, minsan delayed yung pagdating ng pangatlo, tapos cute na cute, no? So, all the attentions, no? Because sweet and everything, no? So, minsan naiiwan talaga yung pangalawa, no? But I do hope that to all the parents here, no, and loved ones, yeah, definitely maganda po na makita po natin yung lakas ng bawat isa. Kasi kahit magkakapatid kayo, iba-iba talaga ang inyong lakas at may kahinaan, di ba? Katulad ng isang panganay magaling sa math, tapos yung isa mo naman na bunsong anak is left-handed, artistic naman, no? Because also of psychological makeup, depende rin, no? Sa background, no? Depende sa pagpapalaki, no? So I do hope that lahat sila ay sana paborito po ninyo at hindi po isa lang.
Wow, I love that. Everyone have different talents and strengths, right? Anything to add on that before we move on to our second question, Sir John?
Not really. Everything has been said.
All right, well then I'll give you the second question, Sir John. So this goes like this. I'm gay, lesbian, and my parents are not aware of this. I want to come out and tell them, but I am afraid to do so because they might not accept me for what I am. How can I muster the strength to tell them? And what do I do if they respond negatively? Sir John, what's your take on that?
That's one of the most painful, difficult situations in the current world and in the Philippines in particular, whereby gender and sexuality are mainly seen from the heterosexual perspective. And it's as if that's the only way things are. It would take too long for me to explain why it is different, because there's strong scientific evidence that there's no one way of sexuality. Even among certain animals, our closest, I call them cousins, the bonobos and the chimpanzees, have their own ways of expressing certain gay attractions. So who we are, where gender and sexuality is concerned, is still being strongly controlled by cultural expectations. And that's where that person and those who feel connected to that person expressing herself, himself, are suffering. So in that case, it's difficult for me to tell that person, simply go and talk about it, because I know how difficult it is. I would prefer to address others around people who might feel like that, to learn and be more open, not only open-minded, go to the level of accepting that differences exist, They have been there before, they were suppressed, but we are in a new world where we want these differences to have their place and to have their voices. And hopefully, that person and all those who feel like that will freely be who they are, and parents can accept them as they are.
Wow. Kumbaga, tagos sa puso yung pagkakasagot mo doon, Sir John. How about you, Dr. Hoxon? What's your take on that very steamy question?
Isa na naman pong mahirap na tanong yan, no? But, of course, I always remember, no, sa amin pong profession, no, in the developmental psychology, there's what they call 12 to 18, no? At yan po yung talagang namamold ng inyong identity, no? So, definitely po, pag kabataan pa po, adolescent, no? Nag-iisip pa po siya na nako-confuse pa siya. Okay? So, i-let niyo po yung mga bata, no, to definitely assess the pros and cons of their actions, no. At kung ito ay 18 and above na, no, ito po kasi yung time to really decide on their gender, no. And I think sa dami ng counseling ko na nagkaroon din ng problema ng ganyan, no. I think marami talaga yung hindi tinanggap ng magulang. And meron po talaga akong magulang na talagang nahimatay, no, nung nalaman niya, no. And alam niyo, ang ginawa ng counseling ko is that we really need to really focus on our action plan, no? Okay? Na talaga pong ayusin niya po yung kanyang buhay, no? I-reach niya po yung kanyang pangarap kasi lagi po nating tatandaan na hindi naman po sa gender yan, no? Okay? That definitely they are a gift to you, no? And your children are your number one blessings, no? And sana po mas mag-focus tayo sa action plan na it's really a natural thing, no? Na meron mga hindi inclusive na parents na talagang magalit, no? Okay? And it's really a matter of acceptance, no? And focus on some of the things that you can do and improve, no? Okay? Kasi lagi po nating tatandaan that we also don't have to go for merits, no? Okay? Ibig sabihin po, no? Hindi po dahil mahirap ka or ang gender mo ay LGBTQIA. Ibig sabihin ay iba ka, no? Okay? Kasi katulad po ng lalaki at babae, marami pong lalaki or babae, ang iniwan po ang kanilang pamilya, no? Okay? At hindi po ito sa gender lang. Okay? So I do hope that we go for really action plans, no? Yun po yung ginagawa namin in my profession. To go for your action plans to improve your life, no? And later on, no, on the process, maiintindihan ng magulang mo.
That is a really nice way. Do you have like specific examples on how the parent, let's say, can deal with it? Let's say initially it's hard for them to accept na ganun nga po yung gender orientation ng anak nila. It's hard for them to embrace that fact. Do you have any like actionable tips for them on how they can overcome that and truly embrace that gender orientation ng anak po nila?
Yeah, ako siguro, it's very important lang, no? Ang ginagamit kasi namin is more on affirmative therapy, no? But it's really more on affirmation, no? Na maging conscious kayo na, alam niyo yun, na i-affirm niyo yung mga strengths ng inyong mga anak, no? Okay? And hindi ho yung laging parang, bakla ka. And when you say bakla ka, ibig sabihin, parang sinasabi nila, mahilig ka sa boys, no? Or if you are lesbian, you are mahilig, no? So I do hope na, at the end of this, I really want to really advocate on really family visioning, no? Okay? Na ano ba yung family vision mo, no? That you want to center, no? Kasi itong family vision na to, if you really want to have a really inclusion in the family, no? This will definitely give you your purpose, your goals, your boundaries, and your responsibilities, no? At hindi po ito overnight lang, no? It's really working out, no, in the family, no. So I do hope na yung affirmation na yon is you definitely encourage your children, no, at hindi ka tumingin, no, dun sa gender ng isang tao, no. Accept the person for what they are, and you are there as parents to really anchor the weaknesses of your children, no, for them to reach their fullest potential. At hindi para apihin siya na, bakla ka, no, mahilig ka sa ganyan, no. So I do hope that unconditional love is definitely important.
Love those affirmations, focusing on your kids' strengths
Yeah.
and unconditional love. That is so nice. All right, another controversial question. Here we go. We are a brood of six and we already have our own lives to live. Our mother is old now and still she is very difficult to get along with. Now, no one among my siblings want to take her in, and I am the one left out to care for her in her home. I have considered bringing my mother to a nursing home, but my siblings are not willing to contribute in the expenses. Yikes. This has been causing constant strain between me and my family. What do I do? That's the question. Sir John, what's your take on this?
Well, first of all, before trying to answer what do I do, just to put into context again, the context, especially in the Philippines, is evolving. Culture is not a fixed thing that endures all the time. It's constantly changing. We also have in the Philippines certain families who would not think of placing their parents in an old
Yeah.
people's home. It would be as if a sin to do that. But in that case, this case shows that some think about it and see maybe the positive side of it. But now we come to a problem of financial, where expenses are not properly shared. To better answer this case, it would be good to have a more in-depth conversation with that person, for example. However, what I foresee is, since money has become an important part of our lives, no one can survive without money nowadays, then this has become another aspect of our culture. A culture of working, earning, and how do you share the expenses. In this particular case, it looks like that child, because it's about their mother, feels left alone to bear all the expenses. And I can feel how difficult it is, because probably that child, even if the case has not mentioned, has other expenses as an adult right now. So how can that person sustain placing the mother in a home and contribute by herself to support the mother? Why are other siblings not ready to contribute? We don't know exactly from that case. Maybe they truly they don't have enough money. Or is it about a problem within the family dynamics itself? So to better address this case, there would be a need to continue this conversation, take more time with that person. But what is clear, money has become part of our lives, and we need to talk about it.
I love that. Yeah, so besides what Sir John have mentioned, Dr. Huxon, what's your perspective on this? How do you think that person can manage this?
Yeah, actually, it was already thoroughly answered by Sir John, no? And I think usually there are really instances na tanungin din natin yung ating sarili, no? Kasi minsan may mga concerns din or problema din tayo. Kasi inalaw natin mangyari, no? Na hindi mag-contribute yung ating mga kapatid, no? So it's definitely a conversation, no? A conversation of role, a conversation of delegation, no? And definitely importante rin po na talagang i-assert natin, no? Yung ating pagmamahal sa ating ina, no? Okay, na it's a matter of delegation and compromise. But at the same time, the worst scenario is have the humility really to ask for help, no? Kung talaga pong kailangan na merong third party na mag-alaga, kasi talagang yung mga members ng family ay talagang hindi maasahan. I do hope that you can chip in, no? Okay? And definitely importante rin po, aside from the humility to ask for help, sana po yung katapangan na harapin din natin ang ating problema, no? There's also something wrong about us, no? Okay? Kasi importante po that we also have accountability to our family, but at the same time, a matter of delegation. So, action plan for you and action plan for your family.
There you go. What a wonderful tips there, Dr. Huxon. and Sir John. I really enjoy those tips. As we proceed to our next segment, we will also be joined by Ms. Janica Borja, a Sun Life financial advisor, who will also share some insights on financial matters that concern the family, because as you all know, the family finances can also be a factor of stress in one's family life. Hi, Ms. Janica. How are you? Welcome to our show.
Hi, hello. Thank you for inviting me here.
Ms. Janica Borja will likewise share her inputs on financial matters that concern the family, especially the ones that become stress points in their lives. Now, here's the thing. We've all established that one of the stress factors when it comes to our mental well-being is money. So we've got a question here, very interesting question to Ms. Janica Borja. It goes like this: I have settled abroad, but that does not mean that I am now rich. Whenever I go home to the Philippines, I am pressured to foot the bill during our reunions because my relatives expect that I earn more being abroad. What can I do?
That's a very good question, and actually feeling ko common tong question na to para sa ating mga OFW. And I think communication, to answer your question, communication is key to this problem, okay? Sabi mo nga, nanggaling na sa'yo na ito ay expectation from your relatives na malaki yung sweldo mo. I think it is best that you talk to a close family member na pwedeng tumulong sa'yo para, kumbaga, tulungan ka na i-communicate sa inyong mga kamag-anak na ito lang ang budget mo, at the same time, ito lang ang gusto mo sanang mangyari, okay? Kasi lahat kasi ng ito, feeling ko, bilang sa pamilya ng mga Pilipino, hindi kasi laging pinag-uusapan yan. Ine-expect nga, 'di ba? So, mas importante na alam nila na ito lang ang kaya natin. Okay? Communication is very important for everyone. So, you can tell them na ito lang yung kaya ko, pwede ba sanang hindi laging taon-taon nagre-reunion, pati yung mga ganong bagay. So, pati yung mga ganyan, maganda na open tayo sa kanila para alam nila kung ano yung dapat nilang i-expect din from you, okay? Na itong mga to ay, syempre, ikaw ang magsistate niyan, ikaw ang magbibigay ng, kumbaga, ng level kung ano ang dapat nilang kunin from you. Ayun.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your tips on that, Ms. Janica. And to both of you, I have truly learned a ton. I hope our audience, our viewers, our listeners have learned so many things as well. Let me also just ask you, because we wanted to end this in a positive note, although we've been talking about stress, anxiety, mental health, and the challenges from the pandemic, let's be on an optimistic note before we wrap up. So I'll start with you, if I may, Dr. Hoxon. Any tip that you think is going to be helpful for them to navigate this really mentally challenging times?
Actually, it's very important, no, that I always believe that love, no, is an act of the will, no, and you can definitely do everything because of love, no, especially for your family, no. And it's really very important that as you engage with your family, no, and for you to be really the safe space, because your space and your thoughts, your feelings, and behavior is the safe space, no. I do hope that you can be friendly with your children, no, by having quality time with them, no. And I do hope that in order for you not to be abused by your children, no, I do hope that the first F is friendly, the second F is definitely firm discipline. Okay? You have to be the absolute truth of your children, the best example, going back to the basic. And I do hope that you also provide the fair agreement. Okay? If there are big consequences, no? Big problems, big consequences. Okay? And if there are small problems, small consequences. And I would like to reiterate the strengths that you have. No? I do hope that you nourish it, no, and become better parents, better Filipino, okay, better employee, no. So firm discipline, no. So pag meron po tayong nakitang mali sa ating mga anak, I do hope that sana po yung pag malaki ang problema, of course, there are consequences, no? But there are, pag small problems, definitely po, wag naman po tayong overacting, no? Yung sigaw and everything, no? So that's definitely the safe space, no? So sana po, ang buhay ninyo, tatandaan nyo, ay laging example ng inyong mga anak, no? So sana po, ito po yung pinakamabuting period, no? Na maging tamang magulang po tayo. So thank you.
Thank you for that positive tip there, Dr. Huxon. Sir John, any optimism-filled type of tips you want to share to us today about that topic?
I would like to start with reminding all of us that we are social beings. And when we speak of family, it's one type of social bond. And from birth, we need that social bond for us, first of all, to be born healthy. Second, to develop properly. And this social bond helps us to grow. But nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. And because of these weaknesses, this social bond sometimes stresses us out. And we've talked a lot about that. But that's where our responsibilities also start. At birth, I have a right to be received in this family. As I grow up, I have also a responsibility to contribute to this family. And both need to go together to be integrated. I cannot always expect to receive and not give, or others cannot expect me to give without also myself receiving. So in that sense, the social bond helps us to go through difficulties together, and what I call social bond is what Doc Huxon called love, and it is the same thing.
That is just so heartwarming. Thank you both again for those tips. Well, we understand that because of the limited time, it may not be possible to fully address a question because some of these require several meetings. So if you want a more in-depth consultation, please feel free to reach out to us at www.pmha.org.ph. Right now, we will be announcing the winners of our recent Mind Your Health Challenge, which will be held from March 22 to April 3rd, 2022. And the winners are... To our viewers, let me also invite you for another exciting upcoming 2 episodes. So for the Safe Space series, for the episode 2, that will be called Imperfect Balance, How Mental Wellness Bridges Work and Life, with speakers Dr. Carolina Uno Raico of Philippine Mental Health Association and Mr. John Gappy, social anthropologist. And that will be on May 14, 2022 at 10 in the morning. And for the episode 3, that is You Are Worth It, Illuminating a Path Towards Holistic Health, with speakers Dr. Mark Eric Reyes of Philippine Mental Health Association, and again, Mr. John Gappy, a social anthropologist, on June 18, 2022 at 10 in the morning. Again, thank you both so much for all the insights that you've shared with us today. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure our viewers have learned a ton. Maraming salamat po ulit. Once again, this is Mickey Sachiko saying thank you and have a bright day ahead. Bye!